Mental Health Monday with Mick Coyle.
Radio City Talk.
Our first guest of 2019 is a mental health campaigner, an entrepreneur, and she's got a really interesting story she's going to share with us. Dr. Pragya Agarwal joins us on the programme. Dr. Pragya, thank you for your time. Great to see you. Welcome to Mental Health Monday.
Thank you, Mick. It's lovely to be here.
Now, your story is a really interesting one, and you've had a really sort of interesting life so far and the things that you've been involved in as well. And mental health is something which you're keen to talk about and are passionate at talking about. You've been an academic for many years, working in university.
Yes, exactly. That's right. So I did my PhD here, and then I was an academic here and US universities and taught around the world. Yes.
I guess when that was happening, were you thinking, oh, this is life. Things are happening now. I got a job. I now work in universities. I talk around the world. Things are going okay?
Absolutely. That's all I wanted to do, and I really love research. I still do, and that was kind of my life path, the trajectory that I wanted to take and progress in that field. So yes, I thought that was it, basically.
And when a number of issues are going to get raised on the programme today, and a number of different things. The first one being stress. Can I talk about stress?
Mm-hmm.
Stress is one of those things which I think anybody at any moment in time would express a sense of stress. And it might be a serious bout. It might be something which is quite temporary as well. But I know your own experience of it made things very, very difficult for you.
Yeah, I think we all talk about stress, and I think sometimes we kind of celebrate stress and saying, oh, how stressed we are. We constantly say that and we normalize stress. And so this is why last year as well, I started this feature on talking about more about stress and how that has a long-term, actually physical impact on us as well. But in my own personal experience, something that has always been a part of my life. So I suppose when you're really working hard and achieving a lot, balancing and juggling family life, I was a single parent, and then at my PhD, stress was a big part of it. And also I think culture in academia kind of is something that where stress is a huge part of everybody's life who works in academia, just balancing everything as well. So it was just a normal part of life. But I think we really need to think more seriously about how stress can affect us and how do we manage and tackle stress as well.
In terms of that stress, did you feel a constant sense of stress within work? Was it something that was always just part of it, or had it crept up over a longer period of time?
I think it had always been a part of it, but there are times which are more stressful and there are times that are less stressful. There are times when you feel like you're really in control. There are times when you feel like things are just not in control and things are just getting on top of you. And I was waking up feeling panic-stricken. I wasn't sleeping very well. I was anxious. I was constantly rushing to meet deadlines. I was constantly rushing from one place to another. And I think it starts affecting my health in overall as well, but also our family life in general as well. So it has an impact on other people around you as well.
Because, of course, that's a key factor, isn't it, here with anyone's life, that you can think about workplace stress, which you might be able to manage within a certain parameter, but you throw family life into the mix as well. You throw raising children and having children into the mix as well. It becomes a slightly different story. You mentioned PND, Post-Natal Depression. That combined with the stress presumably was a very difficult thing to deal with. Are you okay to share your experience of postnatal depression?
Yes, absolutely. When I had my first daughter, I was really young, and I was in India, and she was born in India, and I think PND is not something that I had ever heard about or talked about, not something that people discuss. Physical health is something important after you give birth, but the mental health aspect of it is not something that anybody ever talked about. And especially I find in my community or the Asian community where I come from, and just talking to other women as well, PND is not something that's really openly discussed or talked about as much. Things are changing, certainly, but So it was really difficult for me to understand why I was feeling so low, why I was feeling so anxious, why I was constantly feeling so down. It was a moment where you're supposed to be happy. You're supposed, people are telling you you've had a child, it's all healthy, everybody's fine. So what's there to feel unhappy about? Everything's going well in your life. So you just feel like this sense of guilt and shame for feeling like that at times as well. Yes, coupled with stress and anxiety and everything else, it just kind of heightens everything, and it just makes things really difficult to manage at times, I think.
I mean, I guess, and we can talk about culture, because I guess culture is one of the reasons we do this program, because there's a culture of not really talking about mental health. Do you think, in particular to postnatal depression, that sort of the family aspect of that, do you think there's something specific to the culture you were referring to there about why you wouldn't do that? A sense that it's the wrong thing to do to express any form of sadness or remorse, or suggest that things aren't going so great as a result of being a new parent?
Yeah, I suppose so. I think Asian communities can be close-knit family units. At least in India, there are large, big family units. There's everybody around. There are always people around. There are people to give advice to you as a new parent. There are people to support you as a new parent. So I suppose it is really difficult for people to vocalize about that they're still feeling quite isolated within themselves, the stress of being a new parent, and also this kind of I felt like it was kind of a dark shadow that never seemed to lift for a while, this kind of fog. I felt foggy, and I felt really like at times detached from my own child, which in itself, as I said, carries kind of an element of shame with it. And just speaking to other women since then who come from similar backgrounds, P&D is not something that people often talk about, and I'm trying to get to the root of the problem, talking to more people about why it is so. Why is it just the lack of awareness, or is it just something that is stigmatized? Is it something that people feel ashamed to talk about?
That's a really interesting aspect, actually, that within sort of cultures, within conversations, that there are certain different communities who think differently about these things as well. And I guess that the research goes into finding out why that's taking place, so that people who presumably very similar to yourself have the same experience but found the same response, that they didn't think there was somewhere that they could reach out to. But quite clearly, with the conversations you've had, it's something which is very much a case within the community. I
think so, but also there has been more talk about P&D recently, and the post kind of traumatic experience of giving birth as well, and how that changes a woman's body and the mind, but also just being a new parent, not just the mother but also the father of bringing up a child of those early days and months and years, the lack of sleep, and how that can really affect our brain structures, the way we think, and our decision-making capacity, everything like that. And I think even with my twins, it was something that I felt like it wasn't really being addressed. I was encouraged to go and speak to my GP by my husband, because I was feeling so low. They were born with numerous allergies. They didn't sleep for up to 12 hours. They cried. And so I feel like it was exhausted all the time. And it was really, I felt so low and down at times, but you feel like you have to just pull through because these children rely on you. So I didn't think I got the necessary support even here within this structure that we are in, the medical. I still think that there needs to be more training within the medical professionals about how to deal with these cases. We've got
Dr. Pragya Agarwal with us on the programme. I think there's something in that, by the way, in regard to parenting. Having gone through it again myself this time round with my 7-month-old, I think there's almost a sense from other parents, even for people who would look out for you. Now you can go, oh, they're not sleeping, or they only sleep for a couple of hours at a time, which is fine if they do it for 1 or 2 nights. But if it happens for 3 nights, if it happens for 3 months, if it happens for 7 months, you can really start to struggle. But if you raise that with people, they'll go, yeah, well, I tell you, our little Jimmy, he wasn't a very good sleeper. But when actually what you're trying to say to them is, look, I can't cope in this. This is really difficult for me. And there's this sense of, it's a little badge of honour you can wear later on in life, as opposed to, well, have you thought about doing this? Or maybe we can get you some help from X, Y, or Z. That's a different cultural thing, that it's almost like you've got to go through that slog, even if it's more than a slog, and even if it's having a detrimental impact on yourself. Yes, absolutely. That's such a good point, because I think as parents, you feel like sometimes you feel like you have to act like a martyr, and you don't want to say that I'm struggling, because that feels like saying that I'm not good enough as a parent somehow. And I think parents do judge each other, and parents have judgmental attitudes towards other people's parenting philosophy. But I think there has to be a mechanism or a structure where you're able to say, okay, this is beyond me just being a normal new parent. It is not me not being able to cope, not because there is something wrong with me, but because the situation is like that, or because I need additional support, or because maybe it has affected my chemical structures in my brain in some way. And I think there needs to be a way to be able to say that and ask for help and support. Yes, absolutely. There's an article you wrote which comes with a really interesting line. Are you okay? I'm just going to read it from a blog post. When I was growing up in India, you write, no one talked about mental health. It was considered a rich white person's illness. And I'm not sure if times have changed much. Under the headline, mental health isn't just a white people thing. When we talk on the programme about physical health, mental health, people tackling stigma around mental health, chasing that stigma away, dealing with it, coming up with ways of dealing with parity of esteem within the NHS. That idea that you grew up thinking, oh, that doesn't affect us, that's somebody else's problem. What point was it in life that you realised it wasn't just a rich white person's illness?
Yeah, I think I've had a complex relationship with it myself, because I think you grow up thinking, I think there are lots of issues at stake here, because in India, which is a very traditional patriarchal society, when you grow up as a woman, you build those additional layers of protection, and you don't want to admit to being weak or any kind of weakness, because you want to show that you're really strong and you can achieve anything or do anything what a man or a boy can do. So you don't want to admit to anything like that. But also there's a cultural aspect of it. Nobody was talking about it when I was growing up. Nobody ever said that, yes, mental health is a real thing, that's something that you should talk about. It's something, okay, you're stressed, okay, there's schoolwork, okay, there's homework, but everybody goes through that kind of a thing. So nobody talked about it. Even when I came here and I was struggling, I didn't talk to anybody about it. I always had that kind of feeling that I'm a superwoman and I need to just be able to deal with everything like that. And I carried that with me. And it was only fairly recently that I even admitted to my husband one day, when things just got too much, that I cannot go on. This has actually been going on for a while and I'm really struggling. And just the whole thing which happened with workplace bullying and all the other aspects in my life, the stress and anxiety, it really affected the way I interacted with people. My social anxiety was really, and I went from being a really confident person to not being a very confident person. And that's when I realized that I really need to be able to talk about it. There's nothing wrong with it. And the more you talk about it, the more other people can share your stories and experiences and realize that this is actually something that is really important.
Was there anything about those sort of the perception around the rich white person's illness, maybe that they were had other issues in life going on, and it would be understandable if they had problems because they lived life in a certain way? Was that part of the
Yeah, I suppose so. When you see films, a lot of Hollywood films was my main source of reference to a different culture, I suppose. And you see people going to therapists, and you would think, and you read books, and you think, okay, they're getting therapy, and getting therapy seemed like something quite self-indulgent when I was growing up, and that's not how I feel now, but that's how it felt like. And there wasn't a culture of therapist or therapy there, or people who would talk about. And I think there is a lot of stigma when I was growing up as well. Issues concerning schizophrenia or other kind of mental disorders, people wouldn't talk about them if it was something to be hidden away, because I think societal pressures are huge in these communities. It matters a lot to people how society perceived them and how perceived their family. So you would hear of a relative who wasn't quite right in their head, so he was or she was kind of hidden away from things, or something had happened to this woman after childbirth and she wasn't quite right in her head, and so nobody would talk about that after that. And so I suppose it was more there's a lot of things that have to be untangled there in terms of there wasn't now you see there's some celebrities in Bollywood who have actually come forward and they're talking about mental health, but still there is a huge barrier with that. It's still seen in India as something that only the rich, privileged sections of society would be happy to talk about.
Dr. Pragya is sharing her story on Radio City Talk, Mental Health Monday. Let's move forward in the journey, and thank you for being so open and honest about your journey so far, and the way things that maybe you're turning things around now. You're moving into the art world as well. You're doing some wonderful work there, and also keen interest in work-life balances, and how people can maybe think about their workplaces and how bosses can maybe sort of change their workplaces to make a difference to their employees. What sort of things are we talking about there? What sort of things are workplaces doing that maybe don't have the mental well-being of their employees best at heart?
So my background's in architecture, and so design is something that's really important to me. So I've been doing a lot of research about design and how that affects mental health as well, and mental well-being, and how we can also diversity and inclusivity is really important. So diversity is not just saying that, okay, you bring people of different color or of different kinds into a workplace, but it's about creating a workplace that's really truly inclusive, where everybody feels that they belong. And I think that's like feeling of belonging, and the notion of belonging is really important, because when people start feeling othered or kind of different from other people, then their mental health really suffers in a workplace. So I do a lot of bias training and know your bias kind of workshops, and I write for Forbes about how mental health, and I provide consultancy about how workplaces, and it has to be a strategic top-down policy decision about how and a proper training to everybody about how people can be. It can be created. What kind of mechanism and strategies could you have in place to make people feel belonged in a workplace?
So they might be sort of policies, but you mentioned architecture there. Is it ever about the actual layout and design of a building?
Absolutely. People work in different ways. So, for instance, as a very small example, there was a research a few years ago which said that collaboration and people are happier if there's an open plan office. And I worked in an open plan office, and I felt really stressed all the time, because that's not how I work. I needed, it's noisy. People have different sensitivities to noise and how people, and so you need different kinds of spaces where people can retreat to. You need to be able to offer different options for people to be able to personalize their workspaces as well. Colors help, bringing nature in helps, and those kind of other design elements can help mental health and mental well-being as well.
You know what? I think the two of the worst words in the English language, I'm going OTT here deliberately, but hot desk. Oh, I hate that idea. I think we did it here briefly. It was like, no, it's just hot desking, so you don't actually have, you basically, every day when you come in, try and grab any old seat, even the one with the rickety old wheel. That one, if that's the only one there, you've got to sit there next to people you don't know who weren't collaborating on the same projects. It's hot desking every day. Pick up everything that you've got, put it back down, carry a big bag because you've got to carry everything with you. You can't have a picture of your wife or your family on the desk because that would be personality, and that might actually make you feel comfortable in the place. And if you're comfortable, then you can't be productive. Oh, hot desk. Oh, hot
sounds
desk.
Horrible.
We were. I said, right, this is my seat. I am sitting here. If anyone is sitting here when I come in, I am going to roll. All the chairs were on casters. I'm going to roll you out of the window. But that was one of those things.
Yeah.
I feel very uncomfortable when I have to think, right, I have to move everything. Right, I've got to nip somewhere. I've got to have a meeting, or I've got to go on air. Right, pack everything away. Log off everything on the computer. Come back. Is there no? There's no chairs available. Go down to your local coffee shop. You're more likely to get a comfortable chair there. At least it comes with a hot
I think
drink.
that sounds horrible. And I think that taking the notion of, there is research saying when you're outside your comfort zone, true innovation can happen and people are more productive. But that's just taking it to the limit, because discomfort and taking risk can be created in different ways, like in terms of thinking creatively, rather than making people feel like they don't belong. They don't have any sense of belonging in a workplace.
My desk isn't even that great, by the way. It's just
but
where
at least it's yours.
It's just where your stuff is.
Yeah.
You know, a hot house, do you? You don't go, oh, tonight sleep there, but the next night just pack up all your stuff and go and move someone else. Sleep in that bed for a bit. Oh, when you're done there, we'll go and knock on a door, see if that one's available, go and sleep there. Interesting work you do, absolutely, within the workplace, because, of course, we spend so much of our time within the workplace.
Absolutely.
So much of the way we feel about our lives is often based around what we've experienced in a 9-to-5 environment.
Absolutely. And it affects our mental health so much. And we carry that with us back home or something like that. But yes, the way we work and the way we collaborate with other people, the way we interact with other people, the way we interact with the spaces around it is really, really important in enabling good mental health.
There's that aspect of the work you're doing at the moment. And I've got to ask you about art.
Yes.
As well, the Art Tiffin. If people type in Art Tiffin online and Hedge and Hog, they can see some of the work that you're involved in. Had you always been artistically minded? Obviously, architecturally.
Yes.
You'd have always been sort of with a pen or a pencil and a ruler in your hand at some point.
It's interesting because I did a TEDx talk last year, which is all about creativity and my relationship with creativity and how I rediscovered creativity and how it helped my mental health. And so Art Tiffin is a social enterprise which is all about creativity and mental health. So enabling and encouraging kind of creative pauses during a work day and saying that it will help your mental well-being. And there's been a lot of research to say that creativity, even 5-10 minutes of creativity every day, can help mental health. And it's a lot of relationship between creativity, creative thinking, and resilience, which is also linked to mental health. So what we do with the Art Tiffin is also about encouraging children to be very creative from a very young age, because when we grow up, we suddenly decide we are not very creative, because some people say I can't sketch, or I can't draw, or I can't do anything creative. But that's how we've been conditioned to think by the way we've been brought up. And no child, you would say, you're a parent, a 2-year-old or 3-year-old would never tell you that they're not creative. They're really happy making whatever they create.
But we say that, don't we? If you enjoyed doing GCSE art or something, people say, "Oh, I used to be good at art." But then they forgot.
Yeah.
Like something just turned off when they were 16 and moved into adulthood.
And creativity is not just art. It's about, and people don't realize that you're creative in different ways. But it's about taking that moment to just think outside the box, which can really help mental health as well. So that's what the Art Tiffin does.
There's loads of links. So, in fact, we'll get the link to you up on social media as well. We'll put a link up to the Art Tiffin as well. Have you found, Dr. Pragya, that your work-life balance now is more manageable? We're always working on it, aren't we? But do you feel like with the Art Tiffin work, the various works that you do in your consultancy roles as well, do you feel like you're striking the right balance at the moment?
I think balance is definitely a myth. We could never have a balance, but I think you just prioritize. And I think it's important that I've started to recognize the triggers. So I know what triggers a kind of stress and what triggers anxiety. And also I'm able to work around my family. So I manage my own time I work in a flexible way. And I think that's another thing about workplaces, offering flexible working to parents or to people so that they can bespoke and personalize their time accordingly. Because often I work best late at night, which is probably not very ideal if I was working in a traditional 9-to-5 job. So I think, yes, you just prioritize and you just think, this is how I'm going to structure my day. I'm able to, if I need to take a mental health off day, I will do that. If I will go for a walk with my dog, or I'll do something else that will help as well.
And on your terms as well. Dr. Pragya, thank you for your time today. Really appreciate you joining us on the programme. Look forward to hearing more about the work you're doing, and do join us again.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Mental Health Monday
On Radio City Talk.
with Mick Coyle.
Tackling the stigma.
Radio City Talk.